My friends, it's a great pleasure to be able to speak with you in regards to the conference and the paper submissions. I wish I could have actually been at the conference. Unfortunately, the time difference didn't allow it. But I just want to say at the beginning, Slava Ukraini, good luck in the future. I think that the future for Ukraine is positive and bright, and I'm happy to be part of this conference. So the paper that I submitted is a very short one. It's more of a essay or opinion piece about the value of alliance leadership. And when I was first asked about the conference, the vote in the US House and Senate had not yet taken place. And so it looked like a good topic would be how Europe was stepping up when the US was stepping back in Ukraine. But then the vote took place and the money has been allocated, and I think the supplies are being sent as we speak. And so that really kind of blew my thinking apart because once the U.S. spent such a large amount of money, over $60 billion, of course the Europeans came on board. Which kind of reinforced my thinking that the U.S. as an alliance leader fills a very, very important role. And I think just three examples to highlight the importance of U.S. leadership facing down Russia or China or anywhere in the world. That the U.S. remains an essential and needed power. And the first example that I write about is sort of a negative one. It's early on in the wider war in the spring of 2022, when the Poles attempted to donate a large number of MiG-29 fighters to Ukraine, and they proposed to do it through the U.S. And it makes sense. I mean, the U.S. is the ultimate shield and cover for any kind of operation, and the ultimate sort of security measure. So the idea was that the MiG-29s would be sent to Ramstein Air Base, and then the U.S. would figure out how to get them to Ukraine. Well, the U.S. Showed some interest in this, but then it eventually decided that in fact it was not worth the risk, and without the U.S. alliance leadership, Poland eventually stepped back from its proposal. So that's a sort of negative example of how important alliance leadership is. And it's negative because the U.S. should have taken the risk. So the second example is almost a year later regarding tanks. You will all remember Germany's strong reticence to provide Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, even though sort of a global acknowledgement that Leopard 2 was the best system for Ukraine, relatively easy to operate, very high tech, using normal fuel, unlike other tanks such as the M1 Abrams, which is an amazing tank, obviously. I think so because I'm American, but it's definitely a rich man's tank. It takes special fuel. It requires a lot of maintenance. It is definitely a tank for a very wealthy army with a lot of logistics, which obviously Ukraine is not. So anyway, for many reasons, the Germans were reticent to provide the tanks, and mainly they're scared of Russia, both afraid of Russia and also still attempting to, at that time, keep some kind of relationship with Russia. And this time, the U.S. alliance leadership was very positive on a two-pronged approach. One, to agree to provide some Abrams tanks, and also to reassure countries around the world that had Leopard 2s and wanted to donate them, that the U.S. would make good any economic ramifications for violating the agreements they had with Germany about provision of those tanks. So with the U.S. in the lead, the tanks were provided and were able to take part in operations in the summer of 2023, and a lot of aid, and increasingly lethal and powerful aid, is being provided. And so the last example, is actually the period between October 2023 and where we are now, where the U.S. was heavily distracted by internal partisan politics, but also by the purposeful and I think very well timed atrocities in Israel by Hamas, and then the overwhelming Israeli response, which took the attention of all the politicians and the media here in the States, costing Ukraine a little over 6 months from getting much needed additional and more powerful equipment. Europe did step up during that time, providing several billions of their own and promising more equipment. The French even discussed sending ground troops. So Europe did show signs, significant signs of stepping into the breach left by the U.S. Not just the individual states, but also the European Union did that. But then we get to where we are now, where the U.S. has turned on the money flow again in a good way, and I think that there's hope for the future, as I said at the beginning. So to wrap this up, alliances really matter, and you can't turn from alliances, especially if you're the leader, if you want to stay the leader. And the U.S., in spite of it being an election year, and in spite of the internal divisions and unwarranted fears about Russian power, the U.S. absolutely must maintain a strong and powerful alliance leadership, or the alliance will fall apart. It's that simple to me. So that's my basic sort of editorial that I provided. I'm always happy to respond to queries by email or any other way that the group would like to do that. But I want to thank you all again. It's Memorial Day here in the U.S. It's the day when we celebrate or remember the lives of our fallen soldiers who bought us our freedoms, just as your soldiers are fighting on the front lines, buying you your freedom and survival, even as we speak. So again, Slava Ukraini. I hope everyone stays safe, and I look forward to the next time that I can work with the whole group. Thank you.